Hello and welcome to the Run the Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Symmonds, and with me is my co-host, Camala Lapray.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for joining us, and we always want to try to feature guests that you want to hear from, and Camala put it out there, said, hey, who do you guys want to hear? And overwhelmingly people said, I want to hear from Evan Jager, and no wonder why. He's incredibly accomplished both on and off the track. What did you think of this interview?
Amazing. Just, all of his advice on how to create a future in track and field. I mean, he has 7 U.S. titles. He has a silver medal in the Olympics. And the one thing he said is consistency. It's so important. When he was 19, he'd just go out and run anytime, any miles. But that one piece of advice I think is so important for all of us, whether we're running or just trying to get through each day. Consistency. He
talks about stacking that training, you know, and just saying the importance of building up not just 1, 2, 3, but 10, 12, 14 years worth of training, you know, the amount of strength you can build from that. And it's applicable off the track too, right? You know, I think about us here at Run Gum, and we're trying to build something that's not necessarily going to be perfect tomorrow, but going to be perfect, 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Exactly. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And just hearing his story, I had no idea that someone could leave college at 19 and run professionally.
And go pro.
Yeah. So cool.
Cam, we geeked out pretty hard on running in this one. Was it like, from the layperson, and you've been around track and field for a long time.
Yeah.
For those listening, Cam's dad was my coach for 20 years. What's it like, geeking out on the running? Do we go get geeky enough on this one? Because I know that's what people wanted to hear.
I think you guys are going to like how geeky they get, and it was cool to is geeky a word?
We're making it a word.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was cool to hear their experiences. I know that Nick and Evan can relate so much on just the sacrifice that they put into the sport. And I think that's so admirable and, something that everybody can listen to on when you commit to things, you can do great things. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's geek out. Here we go. Without further ado, it is Evan Jager. Here he is coming to us from his home in Portland, Oregon. It's Evan Jager. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, guys?
We're great. Man. What did you do for training this morning?
We had like a shorter track session. Just not even, I wouldn't even really call it speed, but just kind of quicker running. We did like 3 sets of 6 200s off of shorter rest. Just kind of touching back onto that faster running, getting the heart rate up, but
no barriers, just spiking up and sprinting.
No. Not even sprinting. I was in spiked flats, so it was. Yeah,
we call them splats.
Splats.
Nike makes a good pair of splats. Yeah. Dude, we're gonna geek out on running so bad. Camala's sitting here and she's super excited for us to geek out on running.
All my professional days,
But we'll throw our bone here. We're gonna go way back to when you were just a kid, growing up in Algonquin, Illinois. And what was life like? Were you into a lot of different sports? Was it pretty much focused on running, or what was life like there?
Most of my childhood, I was really into soccer. That was the only organized sport I ever played. So I played from when I was 4 years old all the way up until high school, and kind of in middle school started getting into running and did both soccer and running for a few years there before kind of realized that I was probably going to be a little bit better at running than I was at soccer. So I made the full switch and just put everything into that starting high school.
It's so funny. So many great middle distance and distance runners get their background in soccer. And I always tell kids, I get these parents and they're really into running. They're like, well, I've got a 7-year-old and what should I do to get him into running? I'm like, put him in soccer. I mean, let him go have fun. It does. It develops all the systems you want. It develops, fast twitch, slow twitch, it builds endurance, hand-eye coordination. I think it's a great way for runners to get started.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
coordination.
Exactly. When you make the switch, how old are you? And were you, obviously I don't think they had steeple when you were a kid. So what were you focused on?
So I made this, I'd say the hard switch was freshman year of high school. It was the first time I had to make the decision. I couldn't play on the school team and do cross country at the same time. So started running cross country. Obviously cross country is, we run 3 miles or 5K in Illinois, and kind of just had success right away and was pretty good and kind of all throughout high school, freshman all the way up to senior year. I did a little bit of kind of everything come track season. I was 4x4, 4x8, open 8, 16, 3200.
Yeah. You got to love that about high school, right?
Oh, yeah. It was so much fun. And I think it really helps develop you doing all the different distances. I even did like a 4x2 and an open 200 once. So yeah, it's just fun playing around and getting to do a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. And you were having a lot of success, obviously. You were recruited by University of Wisconsin. Were you recruited by other programs as well?
Yeah, I was recruited. I mean, I remember getting like a lot of letters. I couldn't tell you all the schools, but the like 5 that I had narrowed it down to for my official visits were Wisconsin, Oregon, Baylor, Illinois, and Florida State. And I took 3 visits, with the third being Wisconsin. And as soon as I took that visit, I kind of just knew that that was the right place for me. And I I called the other 2 coaches and I was like, hey, sorry, I'm going to cancel my visit. Like, I'm going to Wisconsin. So
was the right place for you, obviously. And was that because of Coach Jerry,
definitely.
or was that just the whole feel of everything there?
It was mainly because of Jerry.
Yeah.
He had come like to my house and we'd had a couple of conversations in the lead up to choosing a university, and I just felt like a really natural connection with him. And of all the coaches that I talked to, he got me excited about my future the most. So,
I know exactly what you mean. I saw Jerry, at every single track meet I went to, basically. And I always said, if Roland wasn't coaching me, I'd go ask Jerry to coach me. And they're like, well, he doesn't coach the 800. I go, I don't care. I just get along with him so well. And I know he's so passionate about his athletes and put so much of himself into it. I just said, I know we could figure this out together. So I got a lot of respect for him as a coach.
Yeah.
And so
it's very, he's, I don't know if it's unique, but it's just the level that he brings is just, it's
next level,
kind of infatuating.
Yeah, it is
a little bit.
And once you found that relationship, you got a coach you love. The relationship's working. You're showing, you had a great freshman year. He left at the end of your freshman year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Left Wisconsin. Was that hard for you? Was it hard to make that decision of, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay a Badger, or am I going to follow this coach?
For sure. Yeah, it was, that was an incredibly tough decision. He let me sweat it out for about a week. He sat kind of the whole team down after NCAAs, and he let the team know that he was going to be leaving. And I was still training for, I think, U.S. juniors and junior worlds at the time. And so I was working out on my own, and he kind of pulled me aside after the workout. And this was a week after he told everyone, and he asked if I would be interested in moving out to Portland and starting running professionally. And I was so happy. But up until that point, I was so mad at him because I was you
came there for him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, I was questioning whether I was going to transfer, if I was going to stay, if I was going to transfer, where would I go? So tons of things going through my mind. I loved the school and the team, so I probably would have just ended up staying if running professionally wasn't an option. But very kind of stressful period. And then as soon as I realized it was an option for me to come out here, that was another kind of month-long decision of trying to figure out, just weighing all the options and the pros and cons of both staying at Wisconsin or going pro. And it was pretty stressful, but I knew in my heart, turning pro was going to be the best option for my future running. And I think just staying with Jerry through those next 4 years, as opposed to staying at Wisconsin and then eventually joining him. I just thought it was going to be the smarter route. So stressful, but after about 6 months of living out in Portland, I never looked back.
That's awesome. And was there this feeling of, okay, this is high risk. This is a scary decision. I'm young. You were a freshman in college, right?
Yeah.
Making this decision. What were there people helping you through that to make that decision, or was it just you?
It was, my parents for sure. It was mainly my parents and Jerry kind of helping me make the decision. And then obviously I had a couple of the guys on the Wisconsin team and the new coach, McBurn. Obviously they were trying to pull me back to Wisconsin. So,
of course.
Yeah, so I had both sides, but I kind of just, it was tough, but I didn't really think, the only thing I really felt like I was giving up was the opportunity to run more in the NCAA and just get that team experience of just being with the guys my age for the next 4 or 5 years. But I quickly realized that being out in Portland, the team, even though the guys were much older than I was, it still felt exactly like a college team. We still meet up every day, hang out all the time outside of practice. So I don't really feel like I missed out on too much by not staying in the NCAA. And
you missed out on the NCAA taking all the money that you earned for them.
Yeah.
Now that we're in the middle of March Madness and we're watching, all these basketball players just minting money for the NCAA. Yep. Well, you missed out on that, but I know you were phenomenally talented as a freshman, but you're still only 19. Can you, what was it like as you switched to training as a professional? What kind of times did you come in at? And you were training with some of the world's best. How was that transition?
Yeah. So I came in, I think my 1500 meter PB from my freshman year was 3:41.
So right at sub 4 minutes.
So not lightning quick.
Yeah.
I definitely, like at that point, I probably only ran like one paced race. Mm-hmm. And so, I ran a couple, but by the end of my freshman year, like I definitely felt like I was in faster than 3:41 form, but you just don't get that many opportunities. So still nothing like earth shattering.
For a freshman though, paper, that's legit. Yeah.
Yeah. It was fine. But at the time I didn't really feel like the time itself was deserving of a contract. I kind of feel like Nike was just giving me a contract mainly because probably Jerry asked them to, and like they were investing in the potential of what could be, and that's kind of more of what I was going into it as. I was just thinking that my future potential was definitely greater than what I was leaving the NCAA at.
That's really cool to think that they saw something in you and they were like, we want to take a risk on this young guy, coming up to Portland. That's awesome.
Yeah. And you got to understand, Jerry I know he went to bat for you. And I love your humility to say that Jerry was the one that went out there and said, hey, this kid's special and I need him to come with me. But you got to remember, how many kids do you think were on the University of Wisconsin team at that time? Over 100.
Wow. And
he says, this is the one I want to bring with me. So he obviously saw something very, very special in you. And I think he, we've already, touted him as one of the best coaches out there, whether it's collegiate or professional. But I think he knew what he wanted to make you into. Did he, that he had it in mind that he was going to make you a world-class steepler at that time, or were you guys still feeling out the 15 and the 5K?
Yeah. When I was at Wisconsin, we both always kind of thought that the 5K was going to be my distance, and had never talked about the steeple. And I was on board with the 5K. I thought, I was never like a super quick 1500 runner. I always kind of ran it off of strength, and I was never like just lightning fast. I could never drop like a fast 800 time. So I kind of knew that my potential in the 1500 was a little limited, but I always handled the strength work pretty well. So I thought the 5K was going to be a good event for me. And that was my mentality for the next 3 years, basically, until we finally brought up the option to run the steeple. And that was just always something I was really intrigued in.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that conversation like, going from one race to the next? I am not a professional like you guys, so making the switch from just running around the track to now jumping over barriers, did that complicate things?
Yeah, it was a weird conversation because I had success in the 5K. I made like my first professional season. I qualified for the world champs in the 5K. And then my second season, I ended up getting injured and had to have surgery on my foot. And so it wasn't really until that third year in 2011 where I was kind of struggling coming back from the injury, kind of working back into fitness. And it doesn't really make sense, but coming off of a big like foot injury with surgery, that was when we started toying around with the idea of running the steeple, which doesn't really make sense. But it was just something, I think, with Pascal being so close on the day-to-day, in and out of things, him being a former Olympian in the steeplechase, I think he kind of always just had it in the back of his mind. And then him and Jerry talked about it, and it was actually always in the back of my mind. So I think with the Olympic year looming, we were just looking for a way to kind of get me on the team, and just brought it up at one point, and all three of us were like totally on board as long as I could come out of the 2011 season with my foot feeling okay, and as long as I was fully healthy, we'd give it a go.
Well, and I'm glad you did. I think all of America is glad you did. I'm going to list off some of these accolades. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. 7 U.S. titles, a bronze medal at the World Championships, a silver medal at the Olympics, and you are the current American record holder in the steeplechase. What am I missing? I mean, that's pretty long list right there.
Great list of accolades.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. And it's such a pleasure watching. You're so smooth, when you run. And as a guy they called the Bison lumbering around the track, I just always admired how smoothly you moved around the track, even at the young age. I think that's probably one of the many things that Jerry saw in you. Is that just something that you've worked for? Or have you always been a real naturally smooth runner?
I mean, I'm sure I was kind of all over the place as a kid, as a gangly,
like a giraffe wandering around the track.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely cleaned up probably, I don't know, after I went through puberty. But yeah, that was kind of something Jerry always commented on.
The steeple reinforce that though? I mean, you just have to be smooth over those barriers. You have to find a natural rhythm. And I know some steeplers that don't have it, and they're not very good.
I definitely think it helps.
Yeah.
I always thought it was funny. Like a lot of people told me the steeplechase was just like a giant fartlek, and you got to be able to
surge,
speed up and slow down and surge. And I never felt like the event felt that way. I was always.
I think if you do it right, it's not supposed to feel that way.
Yeah, it just feels a lot easier if you're not doing that. So
yeah.
And I definitely attribute that to Pascal. Learning the event, learning how to hurdle, learning how to water jump. He was kind of always not really demanding perfection, but always kind of critiquing, pointing out things that I could do better. And he definitely he made me the steepler that I am. So.
Incredible.
I got to thank him for that.
You know, we talked a little bit before we jumped on the call about the structure of the year. It's a very unusual year in that the World Championships are so late. You know, how are you adjusting your periodization to be able to peak for something? Is it in September or even in October this year?
Yeah, it's beginning of October.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I mean, just for our listeners who don't understand the professional track and field season, a season will typically start in the spring and end August, at the very latest, maybe September. And now what they've done is put the World Championships in the Middle East, and to deal with the heat, they've moved it way back into October, which is typically when athletes have already taken a month off and started training for the next season. Yeah. So I remember some World Championships that were, you know, in the beginning of September, and we thought that was crazy. You know, what is it like adjusting mentally and physically for this later championship?
Yeah, it's definitely a little weird. Kind of as soon as the timetable came out for the World Champs, we like the whole team, we were always just like, man, how are we going to do this? It's going to feel so long. Like typically, like I'm mentally and physically peaking for, like you said, middle of August when the championships typically are. And then kind of after that, you just hold on like mentally and physically for like
couple
maybe
weeks,
3 weeks until the end of the season.
Yeah, drink some beers.
And it's that's always like really tough for me. Like holding on those next 3 or 4 weeks. And now you're kind of extending that mental and physical peak for September, like basically 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so it definitely helps that some of the major races have been pushed back about a month. USA's is a month later. Prefontaine Classic is a month later. But it's still going to be, it's going to be a challenge. And Jerry he's a master planner. He does a great job of kind of mapping out in the entire season for us athletes at the beginning of the year. And that goes all the way down to kind of the training plan for the year, when we're going to be going up to altitude, what races we'll be doing. And I think he's going to be pushing what we do back a little bit. But as athletes, I think a good way to go about doing it is like you put in the work, you grind through the training all fall, all winter, and in this year's case, even early spring. And things that I've done in the past is like for the Olympic year, like I was coming off of 2015 where I maybe peaked a little early in the season and kind of faded by the time World Champs happened. And something I did for 2016 was tell myself not to invest too much in emotionally or mentally into any one race before the trials and then the Olympics. So basically I went into the season telling myself only to care about those 2 races, and doing something like that helps a ton, where you can still get up for like the smaller races that you do, and you obviously like pour everything you have into those races, but you don't invest too much mentally in like the month leading up to anything other than like the trials or the Olympics. So that's something that I'll do. But also like, unfortunately, but it's kind of naturally, have gotten a little injury coming off of last track season. So I've just been kind of delayed with things a little more naturally. So
not necessarily by choice, but by
not
injury.
By choice.
But sometimes that works to one's advantage, especially with the later the championships are. You find that some people get a little excited and peak too early, and the ones coming off of injury end up winning the whole thing. I remember Berlin 2009. 2009. Malazzi won the men's 8, and he had been injured up until June, and everyone had discounted him, but he was fresh when we were all tired. So, you know, it's funny how things work like that. We call it a blessing in disguise, you know?
Yeah. I like kind of hate that saying.
Yeah, it is, because it sucks while you're in it.
It sucks.
Nothing more miserable.
Oh my gosh, I've been so miserable the last 6 months. Yeah. But Pascal he's been very helpful. He just recently told me, like, in 2000, in the Olympics in Sydney, he's like, the Sydney Olympics were pretty late. They were held in September that year. And he said a lot of the athletes that were like really rocking and rolling early on in the track season had a hard time holding on by September, and people that were injured or out of shape early on really came around at the right time and ended up doing well. So that's kind of the mentality that I've tried to keep at the forefront of my mind in training. And just
what is your preferred method of cross training when you're injured?
So it's weird. Like, I've been able to run a lot of the time. I haven't had to take too much time off just running. I've been slogging through like a ton of runs, and like I don't feel great, but like just the higher intensity stuff has bothered me. So haven't done too many workouts. So thankfully, like, I haven't had to take a ton of time off, but I think my preferred cross training is either stationary biking, or I started just like lap swimming.
Yeah.
That's how I stayed sane.
That's the only way I was able to stay sane.
Yeah, like I hated it at first because it was so hard. Like I didn't know how to like breathe, basically, swimming. And just the more I did it, the more comfortable I became, and it was kind of relaxing, actually. And
have you figured out the flip turn yet?
No, I don't want to mess with that.
You know what? It's a pain in the butt, but if you can figure that out, you can get that flow that you get when you're running, and you don't even think about it. Yeah. You just look up and 20 minutes has gone by, but it does feel like you're drowning the first 10 times you do it. Yeah,
I'm still working too hard. I don't think like I have enough breath in me to do the flip turn yet.
Well, now you got to start doing it at altitude. I remember that pool up in Flagstaff.
I can't even imagine.
Oh man, it's tough. It's tough. I got a lot of respect for pro runners. You guys live tough lives. I know firsthand.
What are you talking about? You did it, man.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to toot my own horn without just directly saying that I was a badass that ran pro for 12 years. But you guys, pro runners do live a very challenging life. You're on the road a lot. Sometimes you feel like you're a slave to the miles. And I guess for me personally, it was the time away from home. And I know you've got a beautiful wife and you got a beautiful home. And how often are you on the road? Are you on the road, half the year, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's typically 5 or 6 months of the year. So like last year, for example, we did a camp in January, I think, in Colorado Springs, and all of our camps are basically at least minimum 30 days. So a month in January, and then we had some time back in Portland, and then went up a month before pre, and after pre went straight back up, did a month before USA's. After USA's went straight to St. Moritz, did a month there leading up to Monaco. And after Monaco went straight to Park City and did a month there. So
4 camps in 1 year?
Yeah, 4 camps, 1 year. 4 months straight was tough, especially in an off year.
Yeah.
It was kind of brutal.
And does your wife get to go with you, or she hold down the fort back at home?
For the most part, she holds down the fort here. Yeah. She works downtown Portland, and they just started kind of doing a little more working from home. So she's been able to come visit me, but typically it's like once per camp for like a long weekend, maybe like 5 days or something like that, which it's tough for sure.
It's the sacrifice you have to make to be as good as you are, and I think too many times we see silky smooth Evan Jager running around the track, making it look effortless, and no one thinks about the months or the years that go in to making that moment happen.
All the sacrifices.
So much sacrifice.
Oh my gosh, you should see me running right now. Is anything but silky smooth.
You got time, dude. You got time. There's plenty of season left.
What does training look like for you now, Evan?
So right now, I mean, it's basically normal training. I just feel a lot worse doing it. So I'm not at quite full mileage. I will probably hit 85 miles this week. Couple doubles, and 2 workouts a week. So I think we're going Tuesdays and Thursdays right now. So Tuesdays are like our shorter days. Like I said, we were doing some 200s off a short rest today, and then Thursdays will be our strength work days where we'll get in way more volume, maybe, I don't know, 8-ish miles of volume. And then Sundays are our long runs. And I'll probably do an hour 45 this weekend.
Just a casual hour 45,
yeah,
Cam.
Just
jump in with him.
On
Yeah.
Thursday. I think I got it. I'll see if I can make it this Sunday.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
I'd love to see this. But Evan, you work so hard. I know you have been dedicated to this sport for close to 2 decades now. And I don't want to fast forward it or cheat you out of the next few years, which are going to be incredible for your career. But what do you see for yourself after track? What does life look like after track?
I don't know. I've been going back and forth with it. I definitely think I want to stay involved in the sport in some respect. I have recently, I mean, I've kind of always been intrigued about coaching or maybe some type of strength training element. Staying with the team would be a lot of fun. I don't know what Jerry's plans are for how long he wants to do this, but if I could like incorporate myself with the team, that'd be tops probably. But I've recently started like just kind of appreciating how much I enjoy seeing other people kind of progress and succeed as well, and not just myself. And so I
think especially as you get younger teammates and watch them do it, and are able to impart some of the wisdom, help them avoid some of the pitfalls that you may have found. I remember with OTC, that was certainly part of it for me, watching the younger athletes come and have some success.
Yeah. It kind of like reinvigorates you a little bit. You see like the young kids just like pouring just everything they have with just not holding back anything. And it's almost like they don't know what they're doing. They're just going 110% all the time, which is just awesome.
Yeah. Maybe not sustainable, but still, nice to see.
It's nice. But I think I would really enjoy coaching. And I haven't tried putting too much thought into it because I definitely want to stay like 100% like in the game mentally, and I don't want to start kind of drifting down that road yet.
Right.
I know that people asked and they want to know, what are the tips, tricks, wisdom from Evan? What can they do to be like you?
Just to be like me.
It's a hard question to answer. I always like, hey, how do I run as fast as you? I'm like, well, gosh, where do we start?
Right.
Let's narrow it down a little bit. What is something that you wish you could have told? Let's pick an age. 19-year-old just starting out in college. It's such a hard time. It's one of the biggest transitions an athlete will ever make. What is something you would have told yourself at the beginning of freshman year college?
The biggest thing, my biggest thing is just how much just consistency in not only training, but like everything you do that can help you be a better athlete. Consistency in that is so beneficial. I remember, I mean, like, like high school, college, you don't really know that much. And you go out for like, I would go out for like a 13-mile long run. And then like on Saturdays, I would run like, I don't know, like 4 miles or something like that. And just randomly be like, oh, like I want to go 8 miles today. I want to go 6 miles today. I want to do, it's just like, you're kind of just flying off the seat of your pants. And I think having a plan and being consistent with training is so helpful, because the body learns, the body adapts, and I think the more the body knows what's going to happen, what's going to be thrown at it is going to be incredibly beneficial in staying healthy, which will just help you get fitter. I mean, staying healthy is just, it's key. And the more years you can, weeks, months, years, you can build on each other, like it's just going to be so helpful.
Stack that training.
Yeah,
exactly. Well,
exactly.
30 years old, you've been stacking training for well over a decade, man. I can't wait to watch you race again. Do you have a season opener picked out?
No, I do not. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm coming back from the injury, so I'm just working back into, I'm trying to hang on to the guys in the group right now. So
no rush, dude, but make sure you let us all know. Let us all know when you pick that season opener, and we'll love to watch it.
Oh, for sure.
And
I would guess that I would probably do a couple 1500s.
Yeah.
I don't know how early, but in the months before, like Prefontaine, because I mean 1500s are so good at like just cleaning everything out,
exposing
really like
weaknesses.
Oh yeah, torching the legs, like opening everything up,
building that lactic blood system.
Yeah, it's just so good. So I would probably do just a few of those to just help the body remember how much you can actually push it. So how much I can push it. So yeah, some early season 1500s, I guess.
Well, we'll stay tuned. Evan, man, it's always a pleasure watching you run, and it's a pleasure to be able to chat with you. On behalf of everybody here at Run Gum, we just wish you nothing but the best for 2019 and everything moving forward.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming
miss having you on the circuit, dude.
No, man, I just wandered around. I just waddled around the track. No one misses me.
Who would win in an 800 race between you two?
Right now? Oh my gosh, he'd kill me. He'd absolutely destroy me.
I don't know.
You're not running.
I don't know. What could you throw down right now?
I got this question the other day for an 800 right now.
Yeah.
230, maybe.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Dude, what? No way.
Evan,
you could run faster than that.
Call me when you're 2 years removed from running, dude, and you'll understand what I'm saying. Like, it is a different game. Your body doesn't it loses it real quick. But I'm glad I got 2 decades of 800-meter running out of my legs. I leave it for the kids now. I retired at the perfect time. All the kids now, they're like in college. They're running 143s, 144s. So
I don't know what you're talking about. You ran 142, right?
Once. I got one time.
Who cares,
man?
Man?
Yeah. Well, and they all have Run Gum now, so they can just go super fast.
Yeah, we take all the credit for the performance enhancement.
Yeah.
Evan, you're the man, dude. Rest up, stay strong, stay healthy, and we can't wait to watch this season.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, Evan.
A big thank you to everyone for joining us on that episode. If you want to find out more or listen to other episodes, go to rungum.com/podcast. Also, please make sure to subscribe on iTunes or your preferred player. I'm Nick Symmonds, and you've been listening to the Run the Day podcast. Until next time.